and welcome to Filmi Ladies. We are Pitu and Beth, and today we're going to talk about another couple of filmy ladies who happen to be Laapataa. Unlike us, we know exactly where we live. I live in a town that is named for a nut, and Beth lives in a town that potentially could have been named after a fruit. But we know better directions to our homes than the ladies in this movie we're talking about. We are, of course, talking about Laapataa Ladies. This is a movie that just dropped on Netflix. Both Beth and I really wanted to see it in the theaters, but we couldn't because it had a very limited theatrical release in the US, and neither of us was going to go an hour to go see it.
Yeah.
But this movie is the second directorial venture by Kiran Rao, and I think this woman needs to make more movies because this movie was fabulous. So, very important question that I'm going to ask Beth: did you love it or did you love it?
Can it be both? Like I did really love this film, and I thought I probably would like it because everything I had seen, just was positive. I didn't click too far into anything because I wanted to go in relatively unspoiled, but
Same.
I was very delighted by this film. Basically every single thing about it.
It was so sweet and witty and heartfelt and adorable, and it passed all of my tests, which
Mm.
I did not look at my cell phone at any point. I ignored any direct messages and WhatsApps I was
Oh.
getting, which was great. It made me laugh and it made me cry, so it was my favorite combination of Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum. I sent Beth a snotty red-nosed photo of myself bawling into my hoodie.
It
But
was very
it's
cute.
not a sad movie though. So
No.
just it's not a sad movie. I'm a person who likes to cry, and there are moments in this film that are so heartfelt and sweet that they will bring a tear to your eye unless you're a very
Mhm.
grinchy person.
Mhm.
Um, so what about this movie appealed to you the most?
It just sounded good. You know what I mean? Like the very basic premise that I knew, and I am pro Kiran Rao as much as I have,
Yes.
engaged with her work. Um, I don't feel like she has ever been associated with something that I actively dislike,
Mm,
if I recall her filmography correctly. Um, Also, there are always movies every year, it seems, about that are kind of a little under the radar about women.
yes.
And often I don't see them, not on
Mm,
purpose, really not like actively on purpose. I just choose other things, or I forget, or I don't, they're not streaming, or they never play here, or
yeah.
so it was also a matter of, oh, I hope I get to see that. And then when it came onto Netflix, I realized I can see it. I will see it. I'll see it right now,
Right.
wanting to sort of do my part to make sure films like this get seen more,
Mhm.
And every now and again, that kind of attitude leads me to something that I don't think is as great as I hoped it would be. Like, if I recall correctly, I thought Lipstick Under My Burqa was maybe not quite what I hoped it would be.
Mm.
Um, and I'm not saying this movie and that movie are the same, but so like there was the movie that came out a couple months ago about the women taking the scooter journey.
I didn't see it.
I still didn't see it. I said I was going to. I might at some point, but I
Right.
haven't. And this, jumped the queue ahead of that one, for example. So
Yeah.
I am really, really glad that it was so widely available. And I
Mhm.
know Netflix does not always count as widely available, but it's more widely available than something that isn't streaming, for example.
Right.
So yeah, I think I was a little bit, I thought it sounded good and I wanted to do my part. I was very happily
Right.
surprised that it was even more enjoyable than those two things
Yeah.
would suggest.
I really like the script. I like the story.
Mhm.
It could have been schlocky and weird and just sort of like comedy of errors sort of a thing, and just
Yeah.
been sort of stereotypical. But instead, I liked what little twists and turns there were in this. It was a little hard for me to predict where it was gonna go, which I
Yeah.
enjoyed.
Yeah.
And this is partly why it passed my cell phone test, because I was like, well,
Mhm.
what are they going to do?
Mhm.
Especially the character of Fool. I was so worried for her. I was like, good God, this is a
Yeah.
child, basically, and she's lost, and terrible things could happen to her. And I was just terrified for her. And I love that this motley crew of women, especially Manju Mai, whom I loved. She's so adorable. And that little boy Chotu, and then the
Yeah.
disabled, not yet actually disabled dude of the
Yeah.
I like that they were able to, like, help her out, and I like those little, like, things that Manju was teaching her. I love the bit where, Fool basically said that even once she goes to her husband's house, she's gonna try to work in some capacity. And then the other character, Jaya, I just had no idea where her arc was going. There were some, shady things that she was doing, like
Yeah.
burning that SIM card and stuff, and I was like, "What is this woman's angle?"
Yeah.
But then as more came to light, and then, you learned about her interest in, like, organic farming and stuff, I was like, "This is really cool."
I loved that they had her not only be like, I'm a sucker for student stories about students or
Right,
teachers or students and teachers about
right.
formal education, and then to have her be in farming, I
I
just
know.
loved it so much.
It was so sweet. I actually want there to be like a sequel because this movie is set in 2001, right? And I,
Right.
I would love there to be like a sequel where we get to see, like, maybe she's like heading some sort of like green revolution, and she's
Yeah.
convincing farmers not to use pesticides and stuff, or maybe she's like faculty somewhere. Like, that would be so cool to like
I
follow up with her
know.
story. Maybe Fool's kids are her students now. I don't know, but it's
Yeah.
really sweet. So I like that for a story that was kind of simplistic.
Mhm.
Two wailed women get lost in the middle of the night from a train, and where do they end up? I actually thought that the script was riveting enough that I couldn't figure out what was going to happen.
So I have traveled in India a few times, but never completely by myself, and maybe
Mm,
never quite as much by themselves as these 2 women kind of were in a way.
yeah.
But I certainly have traveled before smartphones, and I just like, even based on my limited experiences, I was like, "Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god." Like, I can imagine getting off the station at the wrong place and then being and not knowing where I was, like, not being able to name any towns that we had been through or anything, and just being at the mercy of other people.
Right.
Utterly, and at least both of these people speak Hindi. I don't
Yeah.
really, and I did even less and those some of those trips than I do now. So I don't know, like, I don't wanna say, "Oh, so relatable." Exactly, but there was something that
Right.
even someone like me could imagine a little bit
Right.
what that was like, enough to have my heart kind of come up into my throat and be like, "Ah, oh, no."
Yeah.
There were so many people on the train that and, like, any one of them could have been a bad actor who did something
Hmm.
horrible to these women, and I mean, this is the baggage of woman-centered film, right? Is that
Hmm.
something is going to happen, something really horrible is gonna happen to one of these people, and
Hmm.
spoiler alert, it doesn't in this
Right.
film, but you do see several stages where
It could
something
have.
could happen, or they are in a mess that it's unclear how they're gonna get out of, or it's not really clear who's gonna be on their side, and what does that mean, and what does that look like, and
Hmm.
what action will bystanders take, and will it be entirely good? And I do
Hmm.
wanna put in a spoiler alert here because there is something about the end of this film that I think we should really talk about, and particularly the police inspector played by Ravi Kishan, like, I didn't know where that was gonna go,
I
and
didn't either.
I thought the writing of that character and the performance of that character were absolutely amazing, and
Hmm.
I had no idea he would project that kind of, I mean, it's authority, but it's also a little bit menace and things like
Yeah.
that, like, I just didn't know where that was gonna go, and then it went where I wanted it to, and I was so
Yeah.
like, that's where I really started to cry at that point, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there was actually a moment where I was, like, gonna WhatsApp you, but I know you and I have, like, a thing where we don't talk about the movie before the podcast recording, otherwise we'll just say everything. But there was that moment at night when the guys are drunk and one of them starts referencing Ram Tere Ganga Maili. And I was like, "Yes, Beth, did you see that bit?"
That was
Because
funny.
yes, I mean, that is the first place where your mind is gonna go. You're gonna think about terrible things like sex trafficking. You're gonna, think of movies like Gangubai Kathiawadi, or even like the older movie Bazaar with Supriya Pathak in it. I mean, that is where your mind is gonna go, especially with these girls who are so completely unprepared for the world, like to not
Yeah.
even know the address of your own home or your husband's home. And there was a moment where I was kind of like, does this happen? I mean, I know
A
you're
good
sheltered.
question.
and you're from this little village, I get it, but to not even know your own address. And there was that funny scene where Manju Mai says to Chotu, who's washing the utensils, she's like, "Where does Salman Khan live?" He's like, "Galaxy Apartments, Dadra, Mumbai."
Yeah.
And she's like, "You don't know your husband's name. You're a fool."
I think it's the ticket guy at the station, who's another like, minor characters, but delightful,
Yes.
tells her that there are multiple villages in their state with the same name. I was
Gangapur.
like, oh no. Oh no. Now what is she gonna do? Ah,
It funnily reminded me of when I lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And Georgia is, of course, called the Peach State, right? And I swear to God, in Atlanta, every other street is some variation of
peach
peach.
tree.
It's like
Yeah.
Peachtree Avenue, Peachtree Lane, Peachtree something, peach something. It's always peach everything. It's like Peachtree Shopping Complex, Peachtree Strip Mall. It's like, do y'all not know anything except for peaches?
By their names.
But it's basically like the Gangapur.
Yeah.
Um, what did you think of the casting? I thought the three main people in it, the girl who plays Fool, the guy who plays Deepak, and the girl who plays Jaya were just phenomenal. I love them so
Phenomenal. A
much.
plus. A plus. Amazing. After the movie, I was looking them up because I didn't know any of these people. And again,
Same.
you would have to bribe me seriously to make me watch Indian television based on what I've seen, but clearly these are people who have, some web and TV experience. The woman who plays Pool, whose name I can't remember, I know she's kind of an
Nitanshi Goel, I think her name is.
Instagram star, right? Or
Oh, is she?
something like that. And it just, but also an actor. And it made me kind of go, ugh. But then I
Right.
thought, man, she was delightful. And I had only looked her up because her voice is so tiny and so high. I was like, this sounds like a person who is the age that I gather this young woman is supposed to be, like 16
16,
tops.
17. Yeah.
Tops. Um, and then I was like, oh, she basically is.
Yeah.
And I was really, at first I was, you know, influencers should not be a thing. But she's so talented. Like, I eat my words. She was amazing. And yeah, everyone I thought was really great. I don't remember this character's name, but the young man in the village who's the interested in her science and stuff, the printer, I thought he
Yeah.
was really delightful. Everyone was just,
Yeah.
I really thought everyone was extremely good. And
Yeah.
as was unfortunately the guy playing Jaya's husband, who is revealed after it takes a little bit to see quite how awful he is, but they do get it to you fairly quickly. Like, he was
Yeah.
clearly gross, and in the way that gets by so often.
Mm-hmm.
He's not so overtly so horrible that no one will deal with him. He's gross in the way that, like, sometimes women recognize and men don't care, or
Right.
men don't see, or
Mm-hmm.
he's got enough money that he can get away with certain kinds of things. Like, he's not actually rich, I don't think, but he's getting
Right.
away. So yeah, just really, and I'm having a hard time teasing apart the writing and the acting,
Right.
but just stellar both, I would say.
Everything was just so seamless. I
Mhm.
loved the guy who plays Deepak. I'm trying to look up. Okay, so the
Yes.
names are, so the girl who plays Fool, her name is Nitanshi Goel. The girl who plays Jaya, her name is Pratibha Ranta. And the guy, I think his name was something Srivastav. It's
Mm.
so hard to look up IMDb. It's so annoying. Sparsh Srivastav.
Yeah.
I thought he was adorable.
Yeah.
He has like
He
the
really
biggest,
was.
sweetest little eyes. He's such a green flag. All the scenes, every time he would like tear up, he would make me cry. He
Yeah.
just has such an incredibly endearing face. And I haven't seen a male actor like him in a while, because
Mm.
there's this rawness and sweetness in his face that I loved. I think the last time I saw an actor like that who had that kind of vibe was when I first saw Vikrant Tamasi, which now, of course, we've seen him in a lot more things,
Yeah.
but he had that same sort of raw sweetness. And I really have to give credit to both Kiran Rao as well as Amir Khan, that they seem to be the only real bigwigs in Bollywood that are steering clear of the Nepo kids, because no amount of
Oh, interesting.
good writing and good direction could have saved us from bad
Well,
performances,
and it,
you know.
when you don't go with Nepo kids, there's less
Mhm.
baggage already on top of your project from the
Yeah.
get-go. So if what they are looking for in doing that is certain kinds of creative or production freedom, then good on them, and
Mhm.
it seems to serve them well. just thought it was lovely. I also think that the Amir Khan productions that involve children have been really strong, right?
Yes,
Like
I love Tari Zameen Par.
someone that they are working with, and maybe it's them, maybe it's, a team, like they're
Mhm.
getting great things from the younger actors that can be so hard to do.
I think so too. I actually really like Amir Khan as a producer,
Yeah.
much more than I like Amir Khan as an actor. It's kind of the same way I feel about Anushka Sharma. I like when she's producing stuff. I don't like her when she's acting. Amir, especially in recent times, because I read that Amir originally wanted to do the role of the inspector that's done by
Oh,
Ravi
sure.
Kishan, and I was like, oh no, like you would have hammed and hammed because he was terrible in Lal Singh Chadda, and I was like,
Ah.
I don't think he could have done a better performance than Ravi Kishan.
But you
And I
really
don't know
liked
much
Love
about
Singh
Ravi.
Chadha, didn't you?
I liked the movie a lot,
Okay.
and I loved the direction and the acting, and I loved Bebo, and I loved who was that actress? Mona Singh.
Mm,
Amir was the worst part about the movie,
okay.
though. I did not like Amir Khan's
I mean,
performance.
Forrest Gump is like that, I think just needs to be left where it was and not
Yeah,
touched
no,
again.
but
Because
his
when I think
acting
about like
was
Tom
very
Hanks makes me
hammy.
cringe now too. So, I don't know.
Oh, I
That
still.
performance, I mean, when I think
Oh,
back
oh,
on it, I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
"Ugh," or if I watch a clip, I'm like, that why were we so snowed by that? Like what was in the water that we all loved that so much?
No, Amir is way worse in Lal Singh
Mm,
Chaddha. Seriously, it's like PK on crack. It is horrible, his performance. He was easily the worst thing about Lal Singh
interesting.
Chaddha. And apart from him, the movie was actually good.
Okay.
So when I heard that he wanted to play Ravi Kishan's character, I was like, no, thank you. Just stick to producing. We'll be fine.
I
But
I
Ravi
think
Kishan
that
was great.
he was so good. And he is one of those people that I is on the periphery of my knowledge. Like I've just
Right.
not encountered him that much. But when you look at his filmography, obviously he's done a ton. And I was asking Twitter, what are your must-see performances from him? And quite a few
Mm.
people named this movie. I was like, okay,
Oh, okay.
that's why I'm asking. But
Right.
um, and some people said Big Boss, but I think they may have been kidding. I'm not sure. But
Big
um,
Boss, the
yeah,
TV show?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Um, but I was so impressed by him
Yeah.
in this role. It was so good.
I was very worried at the beginning, like, when he has, like, the notes in his hand and he's counting the currency, and I was like, "Oh, no, he's gonna be one of those terrible," and then he makes that one comment about, like, "Oh, this guy, he's just a born pauper. The person we need to look out for is that woman who has all of that jewelry," and I was like, "Oh, no. He's gonna be an active antagonist who is going to get in the way of our sweet little innocent,
Hmm.
naive protagonist who has, like, he's
Hmm.
gonna be such a wolf in sheep's clothing." But I loved the way that he played it. It was very nuanced. He was clearly the shrewdest of the lot and the smartest, and the person who's been there, done that, seen it all, has a dash
Yeah.
of cynicism, but at the same time,
Be
he's a good person.
He kept the bribe, didn't he, at the end?
I think he
I think he kept it. He gave her the
did.
jewelry, and then
He
she gave
did.
him one piece back,
She gave
but
him the
he kept the
bangle.
bribe.
Yeah,
Who was from the bad guy, so, like, who cares? But,
right.
well, he split it with Dubé and the other police officer,
Yeah.
but what I liked about him, I think, most of all, was that well, A, just the joy of seeing an authority figure do the right thing, but
Mhm.
also B, he was, as I am fond of saying, learning and growing.
Yes.
So he was actually collecting evidence and synthesizing it and acting on it, which is what we hope people in the justice and legal systems will do.
Mhm.
So that was, and you could kind of see it happening a little bit, and that was very satisfying to me.
Yeah. I love the way that he gave Jaya's husband his comeuppance at the end, where he was basically like, "Oh, these are all the ways that I can like put you behind bars,
It
just
was so much more
FYI."
satisfying that way than it would be to just, "We're gonna beat you up the second you leave this station,"
Right.
There was so
Yeah.
much better, and yes, it's fiction, who knows if we'll ever see these characters again, I hope we do, but I felt convinced that that did its job and that guy was gonna be gone forever.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was going off to Dehradun or whatever helps, obviously,
Yeah.
but, it's so satisfying.
I like the station master as well. Like, this movie had quite a
Yeah.
lot of green flag men. I love the station master. I love the way he's just rattling off all these villages, and he's like, "Does any of these ring a bell?" And she's like, "Nope." And then the little boy Chotu, he's rattling off names of flowers, and she's like,
Yeah.
"Nope." And I'm like, "Good God, woman." But then at the end, when the station master is like waving her goodbye, he was so sweet as well. I loved all
So
of them.
cute. So cute.
All the performances were really good, and I think it seems like from the credits that this was shot, quite a bit on location and like little villages and
Mhm.
stuff. And it came through. I'm loving this trend of like Amar Singh Chamkila and this movie where they're actually shooting them on location in these tiny little villages and towns, and it really seems like even the extras and everyone are people from that area.
Mhm.
That's really working for me. Um,
Did it seem like 2001 to you?
Okay, so that is the only complaint I have about this movie, and it's kind of a big one, is the fact that a girl from a tiny little village has a cell
As a
phone.
phone. Yeah, I wondered about
I know
that.
people in Mumbai and
Well, it was
Delhi who did not have a cell
wasn't
phone
it
in
her husband's
2001.
phone? Didn't she swipe it from her husband? He because
Technically, yes,
doesn't
because I
yeah,
think
because he
he
said,
got it in
"Hold this,"
Delhi.
and then she
Yeah.
gets off the train.
He even makes a
Yeah,
comment like, "I don't have a job. What am I gonna do with a phone? This is useless." And he gives
right.
it to her, being all snarky about it, and
Yeah,
she takes it. But I'm like, even with a dowry, like 2001 in a small little village, you have a cell phone. First of all, were there even enough cell phone towers in small villages in India
yeah,
in
I don't know.
2001 where you would
I don't
even get
know.
reception? So that was the only thing that I was kind of like, yeah, the suspension of disbelief is not working for me right now. And I feel like they said it in 2001 because they wanted to make it really hard to be able to
Yep.
find these people, right? Like
Pre-smartphone.
today,
Yeah,
yeah, in the age of like WhatsApp and things like that, it would be so easy to find them. But still, I wish that they had used something else apart from a cell phone because that to me was a little,
yeah,
at least like, I don't know, a pager.
yeah.
To me, a pager would be more believable,
Mm,
perhaps, because
mm,
I think back then there were definitely people who had pagers.
mhm.
So that was the only thing that bugged me. What about you?
I mean, I kind of idly thought about, does it feel like 2001? And then I was like, girl, you don't know. I don't have to,
Yeah.
you do not know rural India in 2001 at all. So just
Right.
don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
Um, there were a couple of moments that I now cannot
Mm.
pinpoint where I thought this was maybe going to tip into oversimplified and a little bit saccharine, but
Mm.
then it didn't.
Right.
And I don't know. I can imagine someone might make that criticism, and that it did go too far in those directions for
Mm.
people. It didn't for me. Maybe because I was inclined to like it anyway. But
Yeah.
it's like sometimes there are movies that are. This movie was earnest, but also had a lightness to it that I really
Yeah.
appreciated, and that for me, I think that's what kept it. So the movie I always name when I'm talking about this is Amu. Do you remember that movie with Konkana Sen Sharma from,
Which
golly,
which one?
15 years ago? And
No. Mm-mm.
it's about the 1984 anti-Sikh riots.
No, I've never seen it.
And that
For
was
a second, I was thinking of Mr. and Mrs. Iyer, and then I
oh
was
yeah,
like, wait,
no,
no, she's talking about something
Amu.
else. No, I've
Yeah,
not
so
seen
it,
Amu.
it has a few similarities to that. That is a
Okay.
movie that to me was just ploddingly over earnest and kind of bogged down by good intentions and like showing
Mm.
things that I feel like if I remember right, that film got heavily censored for the theaters, but they
Okay.
put in text that indicated what had been cut or something like that.
Okay.
So the audience was all like, oh, we know exactly what they're not showing.
Right.
If I recall, don't quote me on that. But that was a film that like I wanted to like this, and I just was
Mm.
too heavy. And when you get that feeling like someone is trying to teach me a thing.
Yeah.
And granted, this is as far as I know, a fictional story, but
Right.
obviously it's lessons about how women are treated and the restrictions placed upon them and things like
Mhm.
that is quite real. And it just never it didn't get too swamped for me, but I thought it might. So if anyone else had that feeling, and if you remember exactly where it was,
Right.
I would be interested to know. But
It didn't feel too saccharine to me, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And
yeah,
I feel like there will be at least a section of people who feel like this movie is too naive and
yeah,
too nicey nice.
yeah,
Um, because pretty much every person who is in a position of authority in this movie is a good person,
does the
whether
right thing.
that's
Yeah,
the inspector, whether it's the station agent, whether it's even the people in the family, right? Like the mom and the grandma
yeah,
and the sisters. They're all really decent people. Like they all treat Jaya really well. Even Jaya's
yeah.
mom, who won't let her study and insists on getting her married off, is a decent person. Really, the only awful person in this movie is Jaz's husband.
Yeah.
And but there is that reference to the fact that his first wife died in a fire.
Yep.
And was that an accident, or was she
Yep.
burnt alive because
Yep.
of dowry? There is that allusion to that. So
Mhm.
I think it's one of those things where it worked for me because I think life is hard enough without having movies that are just completely
Yeah.
peppered with
Oh, yeah.
antagonists,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it works for me. It gave me a little bit of a Malgudi Days vibe, which is one of my favorite
Mm.
TV shows of all time, and I love all of R.K. Narayan's books so much. So it
Mhm.
gave me a little bit of like a Malgudi vibe, but in Madhya Pradesh instead of Tamil Nadu. And I really kind of like that. I like that the people in this were so decent. They were just such nice, decent, sweet people. Because there's enough movies about horrible people.
I
So,
loved the people, so these authority figures or people with
mm,
some power, um,
mm,
do the right things. And I think what was kind of made a difference here, which I just realized as you were speaking, is for those people, the choice to do the right thing is very low stakes. It's
yes,
not like, oh, I am resisting a huge bribe in order to help this woman, or if I teach her how to cook, then I won't have time to enter this cooking competition that could launch my business or whatever, right? So it's very easy for them to do the
hmm,
right thing, but they do it. And I thought that that was a really nice kind of subtle lesson for a lot of us, because I could do the right thing more often than I do, because usually it's absolutely no skin off my teeth to do the right thing. Why
right,
do I not do it more often? But they were incredibly high stakes decisions for those two women,
right,
and for Deepak as well, in a way.
yeah.
Here's the thing where I did find I was a little bit challenged for disbelief. Did it How old is Deepak supposed to be? 18, 19, something like that?
I think so. He seemed
Quite
awfully
young.
young.
Yeah, quite
Yeah.
young. So, and that helps with what I'm about to say, but the way that we are seeing him be so fond of Fool,
Hmm.
and they've spent was it 2 days together or something at her
2 or 3
family's,
days at the most.
2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And like he already cares about her enough that he's going through this huge, relatively kind of huge
Upheaval.
search and everything. And his family talks a little tiny bit about Izzat and all in the beginning, right?
Yeah,
But I didn't get the sense he's doing this for his family name or anything.
right.
Like he really cares about her as a
Mhm.
as a person and as his wife, but I think primarily as a person. And I was
Mhm.
wondering how many upper teenage boys or teenagers of any stripe, honestly, would kind of respond in that way. But
Mhm.
but I also then bought when he was really upset at the end, like, with Jaya and some of what was going on there, like that she had um lied to them, which she did.
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, but then he came around to understanding how that was for her safety, and, again, got more
Yeah.
information and then changed his thinking
Right.
based on it, which is what we
Well,
all should do.
even the end when Jaya is leaving and everyone is saying like goodbye to her, he's actually the one who speaks the most with her. It's not
Yeah.
even Fool
Yeah.
whose return was actually due to Jaya's
Right.
efforts. It's
Right.
actually Deepak who's speaking the most with her, and he says, stay in touch with us and write to us and stuff. He definitely had
Yeah.
a lot of affection and fondness for her. So the way I saw him is, I think he was just portrayed as this really sweet, innocent young guy who is very sheltered, who has probably
Yeah.
never like dated or even
Oh,
like
yeah.
had girl
Yeah.
like friends who are
Yeah.
women or anything like that. It's all very taboo. It's very like sequestered and things like that. And it's most probably an arranged marriage. I mean, it has to
Mhm.
be an arranged marriage. And he's a little bit in love with the idea of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's his first like real relationship and it's
Yeah.
marriage. And, there's just sort of like the glances he gives at her. And like, it was just so sweet. And I really, applaud the actor for his
Yeah.
acting, because if it weren't for his just very earnest sweetness, I don't think it could have been believable. But even that scene where he's trying to impress her, where he's saying, I know some things in English. And he say some line about like the motor and the binding and
Yeah.
everything. And then he
Yeah.
says, I know more English than everyone in my family. In fact, I can speak an entire sentence in English.
Yeah.
And she's like, ooh. And then the sentence is, I love you. And then he makes a face. And I was just like, Someone
I
protect
know.
this man. He's
I
too
know.
pure for this
And I
world.
love that, he was not in any of this for like she belongs to me, so
Yeah,
therefore I have to go fetch her kind of deal. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
He was
And
just he's
his little friends were so cute.
they were so adorable.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were very cute, I thought, yeah. That
Yeah.
was really funny where they're at the bus stand and that guy is like, "I'm getting married in a month and I'm really worried and nervous about the wedding night. When Deepu comes, I will ask him for pointers."
And at least it sounds like Deepa will probably give pointers that are at least kind and respectful.
Yes. If they've
Yeah.
actually had their wedding night together, I don't know if they have. I mean, in these big giant joint families
Right.
with like I have no
I kind
idea.
of hope they haven't, but
Yeah.
I have
But it
different
was so
concepts of
sweet.
privacy.
Yeah, well, like, even towards, the end of the movie where they're, like, finally reunited and all the families, like, leaving after they wave goodbye to Jaya
Yeah.
and they're turning
Yeah.
away, and him and Fool are kind of lagging behind, and everyone else is getting into the car or truck or
Yeah.
whatever, and they're just holding hands. It
They're
was so
holding hands. It's so
sweet.
cute.
It was just I
So,
just
so cute.
cried every time he was on s I really hope to see more of this actor because
Yeah.
I was just very taken by his, just beautiful performance. It's very sweet. Um, what else did you, like about this movie? Do you wanna see, more from Kiran Rao?
Absolutely. Yeah. I
Why
wanted
has
to,
it taken her so many years to make a movie after
yeah, I
Baby
don't know.
Black?
I don't know
Someone explain?
what she's up to. Hopefully our Khandan podcast friends can lend their Khan expertise to this
Yes.
situation to be like, what's going on? Um, I don't know, but if she only does this every 10 years or whatever makes a great movie, then that's okay too. Like,
Right.
I really thought it was so has a message and is charming.
Yeah.
It had a lot of the our friend from back in blogging days, take a drink every time we say back in blogging days. The
Yes.
Post-Punk Cinema Club used to talk about movies that squished her dill. And
Oh,
this movie
okay.
had a lot of dill squish. It was a very, very tug your heartstrings, heartwarming, heart kind of
Yeah.
movie. This is another film I feel like you could access very well without knowing anything about other Indian cinema. And so you could, I think anyone could watch this and because most of us can remember a little bit about 2001 and what it was like I did
Mhm.
not have a cell phone in 2001.
I think I got a cell phone in 2002, and I remember exactly what I got. It was a Sanyo flip phone in the limited edition cherry blossom pink, and I would spend hours, every week well, not hours, but I would spend a lot of time trying to download different ringtones from Napster.
Ooh, that's a memory. So specific.
It was great. I was so proud of all of my ringtones, and now my
Oh,
phone has been on silent for, like, 2 decades.
I have still some of those old Nokia phones and they are so good. They last forever.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to type 3 times to get the letter C, but who cares, man? The battery lasts
Yeah.
for a week.
And then that snake thing, the snake game that she
Yeah.
showed him, I had
Yeah.
that on my phone too, and it's like, "Hey, I have that snake game."
I loved that there was just that little dose of the little kid and then
Mm,
he wasn't a big deal. I loved the sister-in-law or the like pretend sister-in-law, and her
yeah.
drawing. That was so sweet.
She was so
And I
sweet.
thought for sure her husband was going to turn out to be a nasty piece of work, but
Mm.
we really don't know.
He doesn't
He was
show
just
up?
sort of left there. He doesn't show up, but like I thought for sure we were going to somehow find out that like he's got a second wife in the city or
Mm,
something icky, but we didn't find out and that's fine
yeah.
because that wasn't the point.
I love that scene where Deepak's mom and his grandma okay, first of all, I don't know if this is a casting issue, but it took me forever to figure out that that other lady was the grandmother because she did not look old enough to be the mother-in-law of the mom, and I was like, "How old
Right.
are these people supposed to be?"
Right.
But anyway,
Well, if
once
they're
I
all
figured
getting
out
married at 16 or
this
18,
is
then
true,
he
right. But I love that scene where, they see how Jaya and, the sister-in-law, whose name I've forgotten, I don't even know if she was named, but they're kind of, like, getting along and they're chit-chatting, and the mother and the grandma basically are like, "I hope that they can be friends, and once Fool actually
Yeah.
comes back, I hope they can be friends." And then the grandma is like, "Do
Yeah.
you think we could be friends?" And she's like, "We maybe we could be friends." I love
Oh,
that emphasis on, like, female friendships, and we've spoken about this
mhm.
before in the podcast where so many movies and so much of popular culture is about male friendships and female friendships just aren't given as much importance. And there's that scene where she says, we're so busy being ma and masi and nana, then jatani, and all of these labels of our
Yeah.
roles in the family that we just never get around to being friends. And I love that emphasis on you can be each other's friend, and you can, like,
Yeah.
those like little moments, like you literally see her sister-in-law sort of blossom and bloom and become this like
Hmm.
chatty giggly person instead of the person who just sits in a corner quietly.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
I spent some time after the film thinking about, would Jaya and Fool be friends if they got to spend any time together? And I came to the
Mm,
conclusion for myself that probably not, because they don't
yeah,
really have anything in common other than that
yeah,
they accidentally will have lived in the same household for a little bit.
yeah,
But that would in no way hinder them from being good to one another.
yes.
And that is a lovely thought. Like, you can be decent and kind without knowing someone or
Mhm.
being friends with them even. And that's such a lovely idea.
And I think they could also rub off on each other
Yes.
and smoothen each other's edges out. I don't
Mhm.
think Fool will ever be the kind of person that Jaya is. Jaya is meant
Yep.
to be someone who's going to push the envelope. She wants to go ahead and do big things. And like Ravi Kishan's character
Lead.
says,
Yeah.
she's gonna become somebody. She's gonna do big
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And I love that for her.
Yeah.
But Fool is always going to be that person that wants to be part of the family and wants to be happy with her husband and probably have
Mhm.
like a gaggle full of children, and that's what she wants as well. And I
Mhm.
think it's fine that they both want what they want. But I actually hope that they could, I would love sort of a scenario where she does actually sometimes come back from Dehradun, and when
I
she's going to visit
know.
her mom, she comes and visits these guys as well, and
Mhm.
just is like sort of like a presence in their life, because she would sort of be like this sort of quasi family member who shows up and tells them what life is like outside their little
Yeah.
village. And
Yeah.
hopefully that could also be eye opening to
Yeah,
the
and like
little kids in the family.
Fools and Deepak's kids think that she's their
Yeah,
fun auntie, and
exactly.
she brings them interesting books and inspires
Yeah.
them to be good at school, or I don't
Yeah.
know.
But I definitely think that even if they couldn't be friends, I think they could learn from each other,
Yep.
and they could, because you also see that Fool has this capacity to learn. You see where she doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily agree with Manju's ideas, where Manju very
Mhm.
much is like this, the patriarchy is a trap and marriage is a trap, and these are all ways to like defraud women, and this is terrible, and I was married to a drunk, and blah blah blah. And you can see where Fool listens to her, but at the
Mhm.
same time, Fool has those stars in her eyes, and she is fortunate enough to be married to a very decent person
Right.
who we hope continues to be a lovely, decent person.
It's
But
quite an
I
achievement
don't see
to
her as a I don't see her as a stupid girl. I
No,
think she's
no,
a
not at
smart
all.
girl,
Yeah.
and I think she will, in the confines of her life, I think she will continue to broaden her mind
Mhm.
just, a
And she
little
said
bit,
she wants
and
to work,
she does, yeah. I think that'd be
she
great.
has already learned having a little bit of independent resource is crucial, not
Yeah.
just like good, but in fact necessary for survival.
Mhm.
And I think that she has already learned a thing that's hard for so many of us, is to respect that someone else's experience and opinions may be different than yours, but also equally valid.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't try to argue, or like tell a
Mhm.
much older woman that she's wrong about what she thinks about
Right.
men in the world and whatever. She's like, she takes it in, she feels differently.
Yeah. I found her reaction to Abdul really funny as well, where it's like that point where he takes his legs out of the pajamas, and it's like, what the heck? This dude is like perfectly able-bodied.
Yeah.
But she was just kind of like shocked, but she did really like make a big deal out of it, because I mean these people are being good to her. She's not gonna like
Mm.
then go and make a lecture about how dare you,
Hmm.
so that was very sweet. I love the scene where Manju gives her like payment for making the kalakand, and then she puts that into her pallu, and I'm like, yes girl,
Yeah.
it's nice to earn your own money.
Yeah, that's right.
A good idea.
Tie it up.
Maybe she could get like a little job in the school, or maybe work in like that printing press or something. I was like,
Yeah,
see fool,
exactly.
that would
Yeah.
be great. Please do that.
Yeah. And I can imagine her like using her money to buy like a little radio that's
Hmm.
hers, that she can take with her,
Yeah.
and like she's listening to I don't know, whatever's on the radio, like whether it's music or news or,
Yeah.
serialized stories or whatever. Like she's pretty
It was
delightful.
so sweet. I think I'm gonna tear up right now. It was so adorable. I love this
Aw.
movie so much. I love those little drawings that the sister-in-law kept doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe Fool and her can make little drawings together. It was just so sweet, and I loved that. I love that both Fool and Jay are gonna have, like, I think they're gonna have a wonderful life. That is what I am
Yes,
envisaging
I
for
choose to
them.
imagine that as
Yes, I
well.
am manifesting them for them. I think Fool is gonna have a wonderful life, and Jay is gonna have a wonderful life, and they're gonna both be successful, and hopefully they'll become like pen pals or something. Maybe they'll text each other.
Yeah, maybe they'll
That would be
text.
lovely.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
feel we haven't talked about Jaya as much in a way. I think she's the
Mm,
more it's kind of easier for people like us to imagine ourselves in her shoes a little bit more, right? Like wanting
right.
university education, like don't want to be
Mhm.
married with kids at a young age, like
Mhm.
um but the sort of shifting around of what you understand about her is so interesting. And I thought that actress was really, really good as well. And she, had again, the way she was using her face, like how she would light up and
Yeah.
then be kind of, a little bit more. And I just love trying to think like, what is her plan?
Yeah.
Like she did this on purpose and
Mhm.
Fool, of course, did not. And
Right.
it's, I mean, yeah, you go girl, but also
Yeah.
you're so lucky in a way that you
Mhm.
ended up with this nice family because
Mhm.
you could have been just like left at the train station or taken back to the train station and kicked out and like,
Right.
and because she had a phone, maybe she could have, I don't know, having a
Right.
phone doesn't solve all your problems even now, let alone in
Yeah.
2001. So hopefully she
I feel
somehow,
like if
oh, she
bad
had her
things
tickets. She got her tickets to the bus to the university. So
to
if her,
Patna and then
yeah,
Delhi and Dehradun. Yeah.
but like I imagine navigating a bus station in Delhi is not for the faint of heart.
No.
I've
Well,
never
if you're
done
from a
it.
tiny little village in Madhya Pradesh and then just
Right.
navigating anything in Delhi has got to be terrifying.
Can't imagine.
So, I'm glad she has a phone, let's just say.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah.
confident she will be fine.
Yeah. She just came across as someone who was so focused. She came across as someone who had a lot of street smarts, I would say, was
Hmm.
very, very sharp, and I feel like has far better self-preservation instincts than, say, Fool does. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident that were it if it were a situation where Deepak and his family are just like horrible people and they're like, "Who the hell are you? We don't want you here. Like, get lost." And they like abandon her, dump her at the train station. She probably would have just like made her way to Dehradun anyway, like she would
Yeah.
have been fine. I think she had a plan. She was selling her gold jewelry and everything.
Mhm.
She kind of like she said, she kind of stuck around actually because she wanted to help bring Fool back, you
Yeah,
know?
which again speaks volumes about who she is as a person.
Yeah.
Like she's in danger, not probably immediate danger that she can
Hmm.
tell, but I'm sure she knew that guy is going to come after her.
Yeah.
Um,
Also, how does she know that Deepak and her family and his family are good
right.
people? They could be horrible people
Yeah,
too.
they
I mean,
could.
Deepak could
They
be a
could.
bad person and he could try to like rape her or something. What's she gonna do
Hmm.
then?
Hmm.
So I have high hopes for her.
Yeah.
I wonder what she's up to now. I love these characters. They're so darling. Major props to the writer of this story, whose name I have
Hmm.
Googled, but I have immediately forgotten because I have a terrible. His name is Biplab Goswami. Again, do not know this person. This entire cast and crew is names I've never heard of,
Yeah.
obviously, with the exception of Kiran Rao. So I love that this seems to be. Are these people just like very new to the industry, or have they worked in
Well, so one of
theater and
the
TV?
yeah, one of the other writers is Divya Nidhi Sharma, and she's only got two
Mhm.
credits on IMDb, for example. So
Wow.
maybe she is um a theater person or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we have what Sneha Desai, who is a writer on that. Well, like yeah, just and also the idea if you have three people contributing to a script, maybe at some point that gets complicated. But I thought it was just
Yeah.
so well put together. I think everything about it.
Yeah.
And
It's really great.
I almost have less to say about this than I do about some movies that are more maddening or whatever,
Oh,
because
yeah.
like this is just. I'm not saying it is simple to be as good as this, but this is just just like this
So
lovely
lovely.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm a picky person and I have to always have like at least a tiny bit of criticism in everything, otherwise I wouldn't be me. Um, I only kind of wish that the music was a little bit better.
Mm,
Not one song stood out for me. I'm not saying I want like a big gigantic like Bollywood song and dance number,
right.
obviously, but I don't remember any of the songs.
Oh no, me
They were
neither.
just in the background, but maybe at least like one really nice, charming song would have been nice. But
Mm,
I mean, it's not the end of the world. But I feel like the whole movie could have like really come together with
mm,
like at least one nice song. That's my only complaint. Otherwise, I loved everything about it. I love the costuming. I love this
yeah.
is such a typical like North Indian village thing where they wear those like polyester saris with the gungat and they have those sweaters.
Yeah.
Like the long chunky sweaters, and
Yeah.
I'm always like,
Yeah.
"Why are you wearing a long chunky sweater? Does it even get that cold?" I mean, yes, in the mornings and like in winter and stuff, but
Yeah.
like I thought the costuming was great, and then, their the sindoor and all of the, like, makeup and stuff that they wore, it was really good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I hope to see more of these people. I actually am very curious about Ravi Kishan now, and I wanna see more of
I
his work.
know. I know. So
I
let
thought
me
he
let me
was
quickly pull up what
magnetic.
people told me on
He
Twitter.
is a superstar, by the way, in Bhojpuri
Absolutely.
cinema,
Yeah.
which is not a kind of cinema that I watch, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, me neither. I think I've maybe seen one Bhojpuri film.
Mhm.
Okay, so someone recommended Welcome to Sanjanpur, which I did see, but I don't remember him in it at all.
Is
Um,
that the one that has Amrita Rao in it? I
don't
think it is.
remember. Maybe.
Okay.
Um, some people say, okay, one person told me Mamla Legal Hand, which is a new series, I believe,
Mm,
and I watched Netflix played a trailer for that right after
okay,
this, and it did look fun.
okay.
Um, well done, Abba. Oh yeah, and then Welcome to Sajanpur again. Tara Nam. Oh
Mm.
boy, I don't think anything's gonna make me
Oh
watch Tara
god.
Nam. Sorry, I know the haircut. I don't think I'm gonna do anything more. He's apparently in Pier Hera Ferry, which I didn't remember at all. I've seen that, but I don't remember. Um, mm, Nagar Ke Nagatke. I do not know that
I've not heard of
film.
these movies.
4084 is one.
Does not ring a bell. So basically what we're saying is this man is underutilized and we need to see
Mukabaz.
more of him.
I didn't see Mukabaz, but he's in that, I
I
guess.
did
And
not
then
either.
one person said none.
I
Um,
like the Big Boss answer though. They were like,
yeah,
Big Boss.
Big Boss is in there. I'm like, it's not a film, but okay,
They are performances, though. I've seen Big Boss clips.
I'm
So
sure.
my cousin used to work at the Four Seasons Hotel in Mumbai, and she would have these like long, super grueling shifts. She would always have the most
Mm,
entertaining stories because it's the Four Seasons Mumbai, so
yeah.
she met lots and lots of celebrities. But she was a chef there. Simi Garewal, for instance, when her house was being renovated, she rented an entire suite at the Four
Wow.
Seasons for 4 months. And she was constantly getting room service. I know. I was like, Simi Garewal has that much money. Wow. But yeah, my cousin met lots of people while she worked there. And so anyway, after her shift would be done, she would come home and she lived with my grandparents. So when I would visit India, I would spend a lot of time with her, well, in the evenings. And she would come home and her favorite thing to do was to watch pre-recorded Big Boss. And she would eat spoon upon spoon of Nutella. So she would come home, she would shower. This was a nightly ritual for this woman. She would come home, she would shower. She would not eat anything because she was sick of food because she'd been cooking all day because she was a chef. She would wear like one of her oversized nightshirts and then she would lie like this on her side with the dogs and she would just eat Nutella and watch pre-recorded Big Boss.
Nice. Nice.
And so every time I've seen Big Boss is because I watched it with her. Because when she would come home, you were not allowed to change the TV channel
Oh,
because she would
yeah.
yell at you.
Right.
Because she'd be like, "I've been working all day. What have y'all been doing? I'm gonna watch Big Boss." I'd be like, "Okay, sorry." So I would just sit next to her and watch it. It was horrible.
Amazing. Amazing.
But yes, she's also the person in my family that has seen Johnny Dushman 7 or 8 times because it is her favorite movie of all time.
The newer one or the older one?
The old one. Johnny Dushman. Yes, we have very questionable cinematic
I mean,
taste.
even I have only seen that once.
Yeah, she's seen
And
it
I
7
love
or 8
70s
times.
nonsense. So even I have
Wait,
only
this
seen
is
it.
this is not from the 70s though.
Oh,
I'm
but there
talking
is
about the
this,
one.
you're talking about the
Oh, no, no.
2000 ones.
I'm talking about the 2000 ones. I
Okay.
didn't know there was a 70s
Oh,
one.
yes. It's a horror film starring my favorite, Sanjeev Kumar.
Oh, the
Not my favorite,
thespian.
the thespian in a horror role. I
Who
highly
does he play?
recommend
Is
that
he the
movie.
ghost?
I'm not going to tell you.
Oh.
Spoilers. I won't tell you.
Every 70s horror film always has a very foolish heroine who always wears the skimpiest of negligees and goes for a walk in the middle of the night. And I'm like, girl, you deserve to be killed.
That probably happens in this movie. I can't remember. It does.
Was it
Quite a few
Sanjeev Kumar? It
people,
happens too? No.
quite a few people get bumped off in this film. I have wanted to rewatch that movie for a long time, but I don't know where I found it with subtitles because I no longer can find it with subtitles. But anyway, that's
It
it.
is a 70s horror film. I don't think you need subtitles.
Well, especially since I've seen it already, you'd think I could just
Yeah.
make do. But yeah, at some
Like
point.
this is not like a Vishal Bharadwaj movie, Beth. I think you can follow along.
Whereas Johnny Dushman, Ek Anoki Kahani, you do need subtitles because WTF, obviously, in
Yes,
that
it is
film.
insane. It is insane.
It is.
Yeah. Very cool.
Well,
Okay.
well, that's
So
the end of an episode for sure. If we've resorted to Johnny Dushman, Ek Anoki Kahani, then
it's time to end the episode. Okay, did you have anything else to add? Do you want I know we both want to see more of Kiran Rao.
yeah, I mean, if people have recommendations for any of the other performers in this film, Ravi Kishan or any of the others, please let me know. I know that, obviously being in one film that you love is no guarantee you will like that actor anywhere else, but it's worth a shot. And especially these young women, was so impressed. I would love, and the actor who played Deepak, I would love to see some more from them.
I know, so sweet. All right, well, I think that wraps up this episode of Filmi Ladies. If you have Netflix, please watch Laapataa Ladies. It is actually trending at #1 right now, so it has
Wow.
overtaken. Yeah, it has overtaken Amar Singh Chumkila. I'm going to recommend it to all my friends to see.
Wow.
Yep, it is doing really well.
Good.
I follow Sunny Paji on Instagram. Of course, I do. We all
Of
know I'm a
course.
Sunny Deol fan, and he never posts in his stories about any other movie because he's not kiss ass. So you know how like a lot of these Bollywood stars, every time there's a new release, they're like, "Oh my God, love Rohit Shetty's new film, blah blah blah," and they say all these nice things about them. Sunny Deol do not do that. And he just posted a story about Laapataa Ladies, and he was raving about it and talking about how much he loved it and how much he recommends everyone go see it. I was like, when Sunny Paji is posting Insta stories about a movie that he loved instead of his normal Insta stories of dogs and bonfires and hiking, the movie is making an impact. So please watch Laapataa Ladies and please tell us in the comments what you thought about it. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.